Hi, I'm Jacob Suggs, and welcome back to another episode of Totally Worth Watching. Now, if you don't know what Totally Worth Watching is, it's essentially the show where I give you a few reasons why a TV show, or a series, or a movie is just well worth your time. And namely, this goes for movies that I personally consider to be pretty underrated, or the critics gave it not so great reviews, but I think it's not that bad, so it kind of goes into that type of genre. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about Tron Legacy, which was released a few years ago, I believe back in 2010. And when it comes to the original Tron, because I know I'm going to get like hundreds of comments saying, Jacob, what do you think of Tron? I actually love Tron. I think that it's very dated, but it's a very crucially important movie. Like, when you look at the effects that Disney was able to accomplish in Tron with, like, the 3D graphics and what it paved for, you know, Pixar and stuff like that today, that's incredible. They engineered a lot in that movie. And it's a solid flick, and yet never got a sequel until about, like, 20-something years later, which is really bizarre, but hey, it made money, so whatever. They got the visual director behind Oblivion, a movie which I kinda like, but at the same time, it's not my favorite. But that being said, I think Tron Legacy is actually pretty solid and, overall, very underrated. The film takes place years after the events of Tron. Kevin Flynn is now CEO of Incom, this like computer-based company, and he went missing years ago, and nobody's been able to find him, and the company's not that great anymore, and his son Sam goes on a quest to find him, leading him into the virtual world of Tron. That was a mouthful. I can't believe I nailed that on the first try. Now, I remember seeing this movie with my dad back in 2010, and I hadn't seen Tron by that point, but I really liked this movie as a kid. My dad, who's not into any of this kind of stuff, actually really liked it too, and after rewatching it again recently, yeah, I still like this movie quite a bit. And it looks incredible on Blu-ray, so if you have the Blu-ray, or if you don't own the Blu-ray, what are you doing? Go get Tron Legacy on Blu-ray. The visuals are well worth it alone. And ultimately, that's what this movie was pushed to be. This movie wanted to be very visual heavy and visually stunning, and that's what drew people in. I remember people watching the trailer and just being completely blown away, and the effects honestly really do still hold up for the most part. It looks incredible, and I still am baffled by some scenes and stuff in this movie. The effects look so real in this film. It's also a very colorful movie. Like, you have light blues and dark blues, and you have the color of, like, computer grids and stuff going on, and you have reds and oranges. There's just a lot of colors, and I love colors in film. Say what you will about my love for Zack Snyder movies, but putting that aside, colorful movies are fantastic in my opinion. And here's no exception. They just have colors everywhere. It's very easy to distinguish good from bad, and they use it kind of in that way, which I found pretty creative. And I actually read this the other day for the first time. Apparently this was like one of the first few times in cinematic history to where they put LEDs on costumes, so hey, that's pretty cool. And when I'm talking about Tron Legacy, I can't help but talk about the light cycle scene, the scene where they're on like the motorcycles and they're digitally taking out people left and right. That scene's great. It's still one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and probably one of my favorite scenes in movies of recent years, I suppose. And I also can't talk about this movie without talking about the incredible Daft Punk soundtrack that also came alongside this movie. I've always been a fan of Daft Punk. I actually really like their music. Their albums are great in my opinion. I actually own some of the vinyls. So whenever I heard that they were making a Tron soundtrack all those years ago when I was like a kid, I thought it was cool, thought the soundtrack was great, and it's like the quintessential like workout soundtrack. Like, if you're gonna work out, you'll work out to Tron. And I remember hearing it somewhere that half of what you see is what you hear, so the film's very visually stunning, like I've said way too many times in this review, and whenever you balance that out with the techno, kind of like EDM, like dubstep-ish kind of music that Daft Punk creates to go along with the virtual world of Tron, I think you have something really awesome. The music in this film balances out with the visuals very, very well, and it just kind of creates a sense of urgency and stuff, but when the film does slow down, the soundtrack works there as well. But it's not just the visuals, the story also to me was very interesting. I found it really compelling and more like philosophical than I thought it would be. And part of that's due to Jeff Bridges' character, who Jeff Bridges kills it in this movie. I'm just gonna say it. He was great. I mean, I haven't really seen a Jeff Bridges performance that I've, like, outright hated. I mean, R.I.P.D. and, yeah, movies like that. But putting that aside, I really can't say many bad things about Jeff Bridges because I do like him as an actor, and here's Kevin Flynn is no exception. And Sam Worthington as Sam, ironically, is really good in this movie. I liked his character a lot, and his sense of curiosity and adventure kind of meshed well with the audience's sense of curiosity and adventure. But I think his character works best when he's put aside Olivia Wilde's character, Quora, who's kind of a program, and she's trying to figure stuff out about the human world. I feel like those two work together very well. Individually, they're not as interesting as I think that they wanted them to be, but when you put them together, they're much more interesting. And part of that's due to the fact that he's a human, she's a program, they have conflicting ideals and different thoughts on things, yet they're both kind of curious about how their lives are different, I guess. And whenever you mesh all of the film's like technical achievements with the soundtrack and visuals with the film's story being very philosophical, I think you have something unique that's definitely been underlooked. That being said, the film isn't perfect. The CGI for the most part holds up, and I mean that it holds up. But when I say that young Jeff Bridges, aka the antagonist Clue in the film, that CGI is kind of bad. Granted, that kind of CGI, like the facial recognition, making an actor younger or older, that paved the way for like Tarkin and stuff in Rogue One. Spoilers, I guess. So I have to appreciate it there. But granted, this was 2010. And the effects in Tron Legacy are very good, so whenever you look at a very iffy CGI Jeff Bridges that's been kind of youngified, if you will, it's just not as great. But thankfully, he's not like the main focus of the movie. I mean, he is the main antagonist, and he's alright when it comes to that. But the stuff that we're more interested in, the action and the entertainment level of Tron Legacy, I feel like that balances it out, and the overarching story is just much better. And the film does slow down at times, and by slow down, I mean it slows down at points to where it's kind of like throwing exposition in your face. That's kind of too much for me, but at the same time, I don't mind it because the scenes are executed fairly well. So overall, I feel like Tron Legacy is very underrated, and it's definitely worth your time. If you haven't seen Tron Legacy, and you're looking for a very visually stunning film, this is the movie for you. But if you're looking for something like story, character, it's probably not the movie for you. I mean, the movie has that, and I think it does so effectively, but it's more focused on the visuals, obviously. You look at all of the pieces of advertising for this movie, you just see visuals and stuff, and ultimately that's what Disney wanted it to be. So what do you guys think of Tron Legacy? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I'm Frame by Frame, remember the name, and I'll see you in the next Frame by Frame film review.